In 2009, a junior high school feels calm and peaceful. Edwin, a teenager, sits under the tree, drawing with skill. His friend Pancha notices and is impressed. Pancha then asks Edwin to deliver a love letter to Edwin's older sister Sylvie. Edwin refuses, telling Pancha to give it to her directly. When Sylvie arrives, Pancha loses his courage and hides the letter. The three begin chatting, but the school bell rings much earlier than usual. Confused, they realize the break is shorter than normal. Moments later, their teacher enters and announces that classes are dismissed. When asked why, the teacher explains that riots have broken out and students must return home immediately. That was the beginning of the siege at Thorn High. Outside, Pancha offers to give Edwin and Sylvie a ride, but they decline. Instead, he decides to accompany them, and the three head home together by bus. On the way, Edwin tries calling his parents, but none of the calls go through. Soon after, chaos breaks out on the streets, traffic comes to a halt, and the riots intensify. The violence is aimed at Chinese Indonesians who own businesses in the area. As the bus slows, rioters spot Edwin and Sylvie. The mob forces the bus to stop and drags them off. Sylvie is taken away while Edwin and Pancha chase after her. The rioters pull Sylvie into a narrow alley. Pancha is threatened and told that as a local he should not defend Chinese Indonesians. One of them slashes his palm with a knife, leaving a permanent scar. Edwin tries to fight but is struck in the head with a wooden beam. He collapses and loses consciousness. Hours later, he wakes up to find Sylvie's clothes scattered on the ground. In shock, he searches desperately for her. When he leaves the alley, the city is already in ruins. To avoid being recognized as Chinese Indonesian, Edwin smears charcoal on his face. Eventually, he reaches his home, only to find it completely burned to the ground, with nothing left behind. The story shifts to a hidden gathering place for the Chinese Indonesian community, guarded closely for safety. Edwin often came here because outside he was always a target. At this place, a hostess named Vera tried to comfort him, reminding him that the venue was meant for relaxation, not sorrow. When she learned Edwin was a teacher at Duri Senior High School, Vera warned him to stay alert. She told him that prayer alone would not protect him. On his way home, Edwin saw his student Christo being beaten by a group of Chinese Indonesian kids. At first, they threatened Edwin, but when they realized he was also Chinese Indonesian, they left him alone. After thanking Edwin, Christo walked away. This encounter reminded Edwin of the past, when Sylvie was still alive. At the hospital, Sylvie had told him about a child born after she was raped. The only trace suggested that this child was now a student at Duri Senior High School. Edwin began to suspect that the child was Christo. The next day, Jeffrey was furious after hearing that Christo had been beaten by Chinese Indonesian kids. During class, Edwin asked the students to draw something interesting from their morning. Jeffrey objected, saying there was nothing worth drawing. Edwin told him to draw anything he wanted. Angered, Jeffrey nearly struck Edwin. Edwin warned him that he would report the incident to the principal and that such behavior could lead to expulsion. Later, Edwin noticed one of Christo's drawings. It was skillfully done, which deepened his suspicion since Edwin himself was talented at drawing. After school, Jeffrey and his friends joined another group who had captured a Chinese Indonesian student. The victim was beaten and locked inside an abandoned house. Meanwhile, Edwin and Diana grew closer, often sharing personal stories. One day, Edwin took Diana to his usual hangout spot. When Vera saw them together, she grew jealous of their closeness. Edwin told Diana that he was searching for someone, though he could not give details. Their moment was cut short when news broke of riots in the north. Both hoped the violence would not spread like the tragedy years earlier. The music soon resumed, and the gathering continued. When it was time to leave, Edwin offered to escort Diana home. She refused, telling him to go quickly instead, since as a Chinese Indonesian he was the one at greater risk. On his way home, Edwin was suddenly attacked by a masked assailant. The attacker turned out to be Jeffrey. He pulled out a knife and tried to stab Edwin, but in the struggle, the blade struck his own thigh. Edwin immediately recognized who he was. The next day, Diana found out that Edwin had reported Jeffrey's attack to the principal. She warned him not to, saying that if Jeffrey were expelled, he would surely seek revenge. In the principal's office, Edwin was asked to explain what had happened. Jeffrey denied everything, claiming he had been at home. Edwin then told the principal that the attacker had a stab wound on his thigh. When ordered to lower his pants, Jeffrey's injury was revealed. He was expelled on the spot. Jeffrey stormed out in anger. Principal Darmo admitted that in 10 years, this was the first time he had expelled a student. To him, expulsion meant failure, but Edwin had left him no choice. Soon after, Jeffrey's friends also left the school. After class, Edwin told Christo that during tomorrow's holiday, he planned to decorate the classroom and asked for his help. Christo agreed, but asked to bring his friend Ranga along. Edwin allowed it. That night, Diana called and asked Edwin to meet, but he said he needed to rest early and suggested they meet tomorrow at 10 at school. The next morning, Christo and Ranga arrived as planned, and Diana was already waiting. News reports warned that riots were spreading, so the school security guard decided to leave early. At the same time, Jeffrey and his friends, hearing on the radio that the riots had returned, saw it as an opportunity to hunt Edwin, both because he was Chinese-Indonesian and because of their grudge. While decorating, Ranga went to the guard's office to fetch scissors. Instead, he ran into Jeffrey and his armed friends. Realizing the danger, Ranga rushed back to warn the others. They tried to escape through the emergency exit, but the door was locked, and the key was still in the guard's office. Panicked, they ran into the gymnasium. Ranga told them the riots outside were worsening. Edwin thought about going out, believing Jeffrey would not go so far as to kill. Christo stopped him, saying Jeffrey would absolutely kill, because he had already murdered a student before. Christo revealed that Jeffrey once sent him a video of the murder. Out of fear, he had never opened it. Now he wanted to show it, but there was no signal in the gym. At that moment, Ranga's father, Abdu, arrived at the school looking for his son. Jeffrey's friend Dottie opened the door and let Abdu in. Another friend, Jerry, decided to use Abdu as bait. Moments later, Ranga heard his father screaming as Jeffrey's gang attacked him. Abdu shouted for Ranga to stay hidden, even as he was beaten. Abdu tried to reason with the gang, saying it was not too late, and if they let him go, he would not report them. Jeffrey ignored him, but Samala, one of the boys, hesitated and admitted Abdu might be right. Jerry quickly shut him down, calling him a coward and demanding loyalty. The torture continued, and Abdu's screams pushed Ranga into despair. He lashed out at Edwin, blaming him for everything, saying he had never been targeted by Jeffrey before meeting Edwin. Edwin considered stepping out, but Diana held him back. Finally, Edwin made an offer. He told Jeffrey that if he released Ranga, Christo, Abdu, and Diana, he would surrender himself. He demanded they be escorted safely out of the school before he gave in, and he ordered Jeffrey and his men to step back to ensure everyone's safety. But when the door opened, it turned out to be a trap. Edwin quickly pulled Abdu inside. Ranga grew upset, insisting he should have been allowed to leave, but Edwin suspected Jeffrey would never let him go. Even so, Edwin agreed to let them try if that was what they wanted. He offered Jeffrey another deal, asking him to step back so Ranga and Abdu could walk out safely. Before they left, Edwin told Ranga that if he managed to escape, he should unlock the back door from the outside so Edwin and the others could also get out. Ranga and Abdu stepped out, and Jeffrey's gang did not attack them. But as Jeffrey moved closer, Edwin was forced to retreat inside again. They waited, hoping the back door would open, but after 15 minutes nothing happened. Edwin then told Jeffrey that Ranga and Abdu must have been captured. His suspicion proved right, as both were still being held by two of Jeffrey's men. Jeffrey, frustrated that Edwin would not surrender, ordered Raihan to get gasoline and threatened to burn Abdu alive. Outside, a police officer noticed Raihan carrying a container and asked what he was doing. Raihan lied, claiming he had run out of fuel and was borrowing some from a friend. The officer believed him and left. When Raihan returned, Jeffrey started a countdown, warning Edwin to come out or Abdu would be set on fire. Edwin refused, and Jeffrey carried out his threat. Abdu was burned alive in front of Ranga. Desperate, Ranga tried to escape, but the door was locked. Jerry offered him a chance to join their group, but when Ranga fought back, Jerry killed him. Afterward, Samala broke down in tears. Jeffrey threatened him, saying he needed to toughen up and stop acting weak. Jeffrey then laid out his plan: kill everyone inside, burn the bodies behind the building, and erase all evidence, just as he had done before. Inside, Edwin searched for another way out. He finally told Diana the real reason he had come to the school was not to teach, but to find his nephew. He believed Christo was the one, since they shared the same drawing talent. Edwin and Diana searched an abandoned bathroom and found a ventilation shaft. Edwin decided to crawl through it toward the guard's office. At the same time, Samala asked to use the bathroom. Jeffrey and Jerry went with him. As Edwin crawled through the shaft, he overheard them entering. He quickly hid behind the first stall door while Samala went into the second. Jeffrey, suspecting betrayal, killed Samala inside the stall. After Jeffrey and Jerry left, Edwin sneaked into the guard's office and took the emergency exit key. Elsewhere, Jeffrey ordered his men to find a way to break into the room where Edwin was hiding. Jay suggested using welding tools, which happened to be in the guard's office. They welded the lock and forced the door open, but by then Edwin, Diana, and Christo had already crawled into the ventilation shaft. The three ran toward the emergency exit, but when they heard footsteps from Robin and Jay, they hid inside the science room. Edwin handed the key to Diana, telling her and Christo to escape while he created a distraction. He slipped into the hall and made noise to lure Robin and Jay away. As Edwin moved through the corridors, he ran into Anto and Raihan. He tried to reason with them, but they attacked anyway. Edwin fought back and survived, leaving Robin and Jay badly hurt. Later, he clashed with Jerry. The fight nearly cost him his life, but Jerry ended up falling from an upper floor. Meanwhile, Diana told Christo that Edwin believed he was his nephew. Christo rejected the idea, saying it was impossible since his father was Malaysian and his mother worked abroad as a migrant worker. In the end, Diana and Christo unlocked the emergency exit and escaped. Edwin, however, was cornered and forced to face Jeffrey. Soon, Jay, Robin, and Dottie arrived. Edwin told them they were not killers and still had a chance to change their futures. Moved by his words, the three walked away, leaving Jeffrey alone. Edwin and Jeffrey then faced off in a final fight. Edwin defeated him, but soon after, local rioters stormed the school to loot valuables. Edwin disguised himself so he would not be recognized as Chinese Indonesian. On his way out, he came across a video of Jeffrey's murder. In the footage, the victim shouted that Jeffrey was a Chinese Indonesian, born after his mother was raped by locals. At that moment, Edwin realized Jeffrey was the nephew he had been searching for. His cover was briefly blown, and he was forced to run through the school gates. A passing man helped him escape by car. To Edwin's shock, the man was Pancha, his old school friend, still bearing the scar on his hand from the slash he had received years ago. Edwin never revealed his true identity to Pancha. Perhaps the trauma of the past silenced him, or perhaps he wanted to leave that dark chapter behind. The story closes with Edwin alive but scarred, burdened by the truth that the nephew he long sought had grown into someone consumed by hatred and violence, no different from those who had destroyed his family years ago. So the moral of the story is, if you're gonna start riots, at least make sure you don't accidentally discover your long-lost nephew in the middle of the chaos.